Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Mike Armstrong podcast show. And this afternoon, I'm joined by Richard Matharoo, who is a digital marketing entrepreneur based in Sheffield, England. And we're going to have a little chat to get to know each other. This is the first time we've spoken, other than a few quick texts on LinkedIn. And we're just going to have a chat and see where the conversation goes. So, how are you doing today, Richard? You okay?
Yeah, excellent. Thank you very much. Yeah, appreciate you having me on. And yeah, hopefully we can entertain people and give them something useful for their life and their business. So I'm excited, as I always am, for these things.
Yeah, brilliant. And I love it too. I've been in entrepreneurialism since I was 11.
Mm,
And I'm only coming up to 43 now, so 30 odd years. And
nice.
I love to share that knowledge and information that I've learned with others. And I take it, you're pretty much in the same space, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you only kind of an idiot would get in a lift, take it to the top, and then not send the lift back down for anybody else. You know what I mean? So this is what entrepreneurship for me is about. It's same as you. I started when I was about 16 years old. I'm 39 now. So there's a good few decades between us on here, and you learn a lot with time, with consistency. You make mistakes that other people don't have to make, and you stumble upon things at work that you wished you'd known 10, 15 years ago that would avoid a lot of pain. So I like to be able to, when someone asks a question, say, well, this is what actually works and worked for me too, and worked for my students. So this is what's working right now. It isn't like a lot of people out there will create a course on creating courses and that's how they get successful. Do you know what I mean? I think you've got to earn that right by going through entrepreneurship, making the mistakes, getting the results and saying, look, I know this works. So here's a helping hand.
Yeah, definitely. It's like I was part of a fast growth tech startup business in 2002, which I left in 2012 before going self-employed. And that business grew from no turnover to 25 million turnover in 10 years. And I run the
Nice.
corporate sales team, the key accounts department. I took it over 2 years in and run it for 8 years. I was part of it for the first 2 years, and I maintained myself as one of the two top sellers out of 250 salespeople for the whole 10-year period, whilst running the corporate sales team as well, and also managing
Excellent.
the reseller affiliate channel. And so
Mm,
I grew a sales team from 7 people doing 300 grand to 17 doing 5.7 million as
nice.
part of that 25 million turnover, in that 10-year growth. And so what I try and do is share that wisdom that, I've been to places in business and many people have never been and they don't know what it
Mhm.
looks like. And so therefore they can't plan to get there. So
Mm.
that's what I like to do is sort of just try and educate people on, the strategies that can be used to get to places they don't even know they're going.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, it's helpful when you have some kind of guide and someone's walked the path before. We had a business that actually went under. Well, I say went under. We sold it, but we sold it through necessity because, for me, if you shake somebody's hand, it's as good as any contract. I'm just old-fashioned that way.
Yeah, excuse me.
That was naive. I didn't realize it at the time. This was back in 2002, around the same time. So we built a business, a health and fitness club. My wife and I owned, doing really well. I'm walking around thinking, man, my life is on that trajectory. Like we've all
Yeah,
experienced times where like, this is it. This is things are clicking into place. I'm a good guy. I'm doing the right things. I'm going to keep getting rewarded. So I'm thinking everybody's decent and honest. And the next thing, someone's not returning my calls. And then I realize these contracts are turning up and then requests. And then it just got messy and we ended up having to sell that business. They're forced really to get out of that position. But I learned a lot. At the time, it was extremely painful. The embarrassment of having to give a car back that you'd worked for and worrying about whether you can keep a roof over your head and being frustrated that you didn't really do anything wrong other than mistrust somebody. But then I became very grateful for it because I started to realize some things about myself, some ways that I was going to now choose my partnerships more carefully, and then also become more self-sufficient. I was like, I don't want to put my wealth in terms of time or money in anybody else's hands anymore. That business began to own me even before we made that mistake of trusting the wrong person. Long hours, staff couldn't do what you did. I kind of backed myself and worked myself into a corner. And I was like, this is the reason I became self-employed, was freedom, really. I
yeah,
didn't have a father growing up, never around. And for me, it was really important that when I became a father, I was going to be there, not just financially, but actually to create these memories, lay a good foundation. And here I was, my daughter was 1 year old, the business was going under. And I'm like, man, I'm working 80 hours a week here just to make ends meet. I would be easier in a 9 to 5, but I just know that I'm not cut from that cloth. I like being in charge. I like the flexibility. So I was like, I've got to find something that I can make it work for me. And so I'm grateful, because if it hadn't been for that lesson learned, I would have never been pushed so hard to go the direction that I went.
And what was that direction? What did you end up doing?
I started in actually network marketing, which has a lot of bad press, simply because people kept asking me about it. And I thought, well, you know what? It was only a few £100s to get started. I'll give it a go. I was in a bunch of debt at the time. I'm like, I'm 50 grand in debt. What's the difference between 50 grand, £300, and 50 grand is not much, right? I may as well give it a go. And then I found that I didn't really like the business practices. Like, a lot of that industry is very much behind what actually works in business. They'll make a list, go around your friends and family, spam links on social media.
It's old
That stuff
school.
doesn't work
Bit
anyway.
old school.
Yeah, it's 70 years old, Mike. With the business has moved on. How people make buying decisions has moved on now. We're all online, and we do things differently. So I did 328 presentations that were all no's in a row. I had a little tracker. I was new to the game. I had my tracker 328 times. I'd get the Tony Robbins CD on. I'd be high hopes. No, Richard. And the turning point came when my grandfather had just passed away. He was very important to me. He was like my father. So he passed away the early hours of one morning. I'm by his bedside. And then literally 4 or 5 hours later, it's about 10 a.m., I'm driving out to give another presentation, because I had this immense pressure. Like, I'm the one that trusted that person. I'm the one that lost that business. There's a whole bunch of debt. Our life's a mess. This could be the one. This could be the magic client that turns things around. So I'm turning up, and I'm sat there and I'm thinking, what am I even doing here? Like, I haven't had time to grieve. This is just so much pressure right now. And within 5 minutes, we've all had these meetings where we can tell it's just not for them. Like, this is a 328th time I'm going to get a no. And I politely finished up the presentation. She was looking for a quick way to get me out of there. And I pulled around the corner in a lay-by, and I just sat there with my head in my hands, and I thought, something's got to give. I've got to change. Like, this methodology isn't working. So I became obsessed with figuring out, okay, what is working in other professional industries? Like, how are they generating interest? How are they getting clients and customers? How are they converting that effectively? How are they doing that in a way that gives them still freedom? You don't see Alan Sugar working 80 hours a week, I'm sure. You've got, if you can't get staff, are there systems you can use to outsource what you're doing? So I became obsessed with that methodology, got around some good people, worked really hard, made mistakes, learned from it, refined it, and ended up bringing in over 700 people to that business model. Helped other network marketers generate over £2.5 million in sales now, which is what I'm most proud about, being able to share it with other people. And because I've got those results, kept getting asked, can you teach me? Can you teach me? So I gravitated back to my roots, which was being a coach in health and fitness. This time, though, I stuck strictly towards business coaching, using the techniques and the systems that I'd used to get out of that problem and build a huge business. I taught those to other people now exclusively for the past 7 years now.
Yeah, good. So what are you teaching them? Sort of like funnel building type approach, yeah?
Yeah, a mixture. I like to do things from start to finish. I don't like giving people just the corners of a jigsaw. I want to at least give them all the pieces. And yeah, they've got to pick them up and apply them. But if I can give them the picture and all the pieces, it makes things a lot simpler. So many courses out there now, they'll create something they think will sell above what this audience actually needs.
Yeah.
I don't like that approach. So I sat down and was like, okay, what is everything somebody needs to go from zero to successful, at least 6 figures in this industry? And then I just mapped that out. I went through exactly what I'd done. We've got lots of success stories with students now, so we continue to refine it. I teach them everything from their own personal performance, understanding what makes them tick so they can avoid self-sabotage. Then we move on to using things like funnels, specific offer, targeting, specificity with their marketing. And then once we've got that in place, we know they've got a strong offer. I then teach them how to put that in front of people in the right way with online marketing. And then I teach them how to advertise and scale from there. It's a step-by-step process. It takes a good 8 to 10 weeks to get through the whole thing. but we just go practically one step at a time. I'm a bit of a geek with practicality, so it's nice and sequential.
Yeah, and what's your main tool that you use within that process for the lead generation, if you like? My guess is maybe Facebook marketing, something like that.
That's part of it, but to be honest with Facebook, unless you're doing ads, you're really going to struggle to have either fast growth or growth that doesn't rely on your manual time. I do teach people how to prospect in a more targeted, specific time appreciative way with Facebook and LinkedIn. But that is just a means to an end. That is just to keep the fires burning while there's more passive methods, such as, say, YouTube is a great method to use. I have over 3 million minutes viewed of my YouTube videos now, which is crazy, especially if you see my first video, Mike. It's terrible. It's absolutely awful.
The first video for everyone's always terrible. That's just the way it is. It's just
it took me all day to film it.
Suck it and see how new. Mine were terrible as well. Yeah. I'm used to communicating with people, and then communicating to the phone it took a bit of time to, because you bounce off other people, but you can't bounce off a phone. So you have to learn to bounce off yourself, haven't you?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I used to be really. I mean, I've done loads of interviews and spoken on stage and all sorts of cool stuff that I'm grateful for. But I used to send my wife out of the house. I was like, no one can hear me speaking. You've got to leave. And she'd just go out of the house. I'd spend all day. I'd sweat through like 3 shirts. Hello, no, that's no good. Hi, no, that's no good. You know what I mean? And then she walked through the door, and I go no, and she'd turn around, and go back out again, so I could film another video. And they were all still terrible, but it's like you said, I'd put some skin in the game. I'd made plans change, decisions don't. I'd made a decision that this was what I was going to master. I was going to be a digital entrepreneur. I was going to figure this stuff out. And once you've got that mentality that you're not looking at 50 different things and you're fixed and focused on the avenue that you've chosen, it really does help you to drive some depth in your knowledge. Everywhere you go, there you are. I wanted to be the skill set that could provide results in my business. I didn't want the vulnerability of having to outsource or pay somebody else unless I chose to, and then I would have that security knowing I could replace them anyway. You wouldn't open a restaurant if you can't cook food. It's just suicide. Because the chef at any given time can turn.
A chef.
Yeah, exactly. You need someone involved who has got skin in the game. Otherwise, they can just turn around and say, you know what, I'm off unless you pay me double. Yeah. You know what I mean? You don't want to have that position in your business. So, YouTube is a great method to come back to your question to generate leads because it has its own search feature. Over 70% of people go on YouTube to search for how-to videos.
Yeah, so it was surprising you said that, because a lot of people who are doing sort of funnels or systems or whatever, a lot of people these days seem to be, everyone's on the Facebook advertising bug, but it was, I try all techniques at the moment. I'm using podcasts and YouTube's mostly because they were newer to my portfolio, but I use 360 degrees. I try and use every angle possible, so that again, you're not putting all your eggs in one basket, and if something happens to one lead source, you still got others and all that sort of thing.
You want to have 3 main channels of lead flow in your business. If you start getting above that, you start to dilute, and then you lose the speciality of actually going and driving depth in that area. But as long as you've got 3 good flows in, because you've got to remember, we don't own these companies. I don't own YouTube. I wish I did. I don't own Google. I don't own Facebook. None of us do. So if one day old, Zuckerchops gets up and says, you know what, I don't want people advertising this type of business anymore, you're done. If your entire lead flow is coming from that source, your business just stopped overnight. Same with YouTube, same with podcasts. So I have a podcast, I have a YouTube channel, and I use social media as kind of satellites to point at that. There's a few automation things that mean I don't have to put much time into a lot of that. But something like YouTube is really good, strong traffic, because if you're a coach, a consultant, a business owner, for example, give me any type of business, like the type of business that your listeners would usually have. What's a typical type of business they'd have?
A lot of my listeners actually are other coaches, so maybe a fitness coaching, or some NLP, or holistic, all that sort of stuff.
Let's take NLP, because it'd be cheating. I used to be in fitness, so let's go NLP to show this work. So if I was someone who was in NLP and I was a coach and I wanted to either sell one-on-one services or coaching, the first thing that I would want to do is to build trust with a wider audience. Because if I'm having to reach out to people one by one by one, that's linear addition. And there's only so many hours in a day. And there's only so many hours I really want to do that for. Having conversations is great. I love it, but I don't love it as much as I do taking my daughter to the park. I don't love it as much as I do traveling. I don't love it as much as a lot of things. So I want to try and find a balance where I do a little bit of that, but I have another lead flow coming in. So if I was a an NLP practitioner, I'd be on YouTube and I would be thinking, okay, what's my target audience? Maybe I want to be the go-to NLP practitioner for small business owners. So these are people who are struggling with things like communication in the sale. They're struggling with how, when they get into striking a deal over a lease or whatever it may be, they're struggling to know the words. Many areas that they could have better communication and would make a significant improvement. So I'm going to start using YouTube for that. How to use NLP to get a better deal on your business. How to use NLP to close more sales in your coaching practice. I'm going to go on and find a whole bunch of terms that people are already searching for, and I'm going to create content around that gives them some basic information so they can consume that. They go, I trust this guy. He obviously knows what he's speaking about. And at the end of the video, I'm like, hey, if you want to dive deeper into this area, I have a course, or I can schedule a quick call with you and we can do X, Y, Z. So now I'm going to soak up a huge segment of that marketplace by becoming someone who's trusted, by reaching a whole new audience that I wouldn't do just by the phone. And when people come to me, then 90% decided they're going to buy from me, because like when people come to me, they're like, oh, I've been watching your YouTube videos, I've been listening to your podcast. So they just really want to have a quick question. Most of the time I send them to a funnel. I don't even have to speak to them. It just sends them straight to an automated program. So that's the way to use YouTube. Go on that little search bar, type in some terms of your area of expertise. You'll see what people are already searching for because it will pop up as predictive text. Now, if you knew a few basics about ranking, you can have your content in front of the exact audience and educate them and build trust and have a whole massive international business that way if you choose.
Yeah. Yes, great advice there. Great advice. And you might as well get a plug in for your YouTube channel then. Where do people go to watch your content?
Just my name. It's reassuringly complicated. So if my name is anywhere in the title of this podcast or in a text area, if next time you're on YouTube, just type in Richard Matharoo, my channel will pop up.
Yeah, I put it in the title and I put it in the description. So it's a bit like my podcast is called the Mike Armstrong Podcast, and my YouTube channel is called the Mike Armstrong YouTube channel. So you've done a similar approach,
simple, right?
Yeah,
got to keep it simple. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm all about building my own personal brand and my own personal name. So don't want to call it anything else to confuse anyone. Yeah.
Yeah, 100% best place to start personal brand for definite.
Yeah, and also, like you said, anyone can do anything with YouTube and Facebook and all that. So I always, I got a mikearmstrong.me website, and I use everything to try and drive traffic to that website, so that you build up your domain value and you build up the website value, and no matter what, you've always got that site and that asset, if you like, rather than there's so many people. Yeah, there's so many people who, like, for example, they get blocked on Instagram or something, and then that was their whole business gone,
Yeah, you've got to build your planet. Like, your planet should be your name because you own it. Unless you do something stupid or illegal, that's your asset. You own it. And the beauty of having your name is, when you're first starting to brand or go online, you're able to actually adjust what you do. When I first started, because I came from a small business background as a gym owner, I'm like, okay, I'm going to pitch my services to other small business owners because I understand that audience better. What I didn't realize was, because back then I was purely in network marketing, they were very resistant to that business model. So I found it a real struggle. I was like, oh my goodness, I've picked this audience and they're actually very, very they're rejecting what I'm offering. So I transitioned to actually targeting existing network marketers. I couldn't have done that if I'd called my website, smallbusinesssolutions.com or whatever it may be, right? I just gave a free plug to whoever owns that domain, whatever it may be. But richardmatharoo.com, well, that can be anything, can't it? And then once you've fixed and focused on a particular audience, a particular offer and your expertise, if you then want to go the company route and create your own company, I created authoritynetworker.com. But that took me Oh man, that took me like 6 or 7 years to reach that point of trial and error. And you know, I'm glad that I didn't pick that name until I'd actually tried my own personal name for many years.
Yeah, well, I picked MA consultancy straight away because I like to do lots of different things, and so it's my
Yeah,
initials in consultancy.
exactly.
It allowed me to do anything with anyone really, like, you know.
Flexibility, yeah,
Yeah,
flexibility.
because I think big and I'm diverse and all of that sort of stuff. So I went straight in with that as well. But that's because I come from a corporate sales marketing sort of background, if you like, and
Sure.
I understood progression and actually where things can go. So I think so many
Yeah,
people, they don't understand that, so they give themselves a limited name and a geographical area or an industry sector, and
yeah,
what they don't understand is they need to be able to grow outside of that as they develop on in their business. So I think
yeah.
these are key things. But what you said about the name as well, yeah, I'm quite glad I got quite a competitive name. A lot of people have got it because it's taught me a lot of skills. Because I'm the
Mm,
number 1 Mike Armstrong on Google, and I'm the number 1 Mike Armstrong on LinkedIn. But I never used to be. It's taken me a long
mm,
time to get there.
mhm.
But having the challenge of having an unusual, so having a common name rather than an unusual one means unusual names. Unfortunately, I guess yours is probably quite unusual. So you can be at the top of
Yeah,
search
there's
engines quite
pluses and
easy.
minuses. Yeah, pluses and minuses. Pluses that, you know, it's easy to find, but minuses in the sense that, you know, hardly anybody can spell it. But
Yeah,
the thing nowadays is with social media and with online marketing, very, very few people nowadays are, in fact, it's impossible because I don't have a business card. So no one's going to find a business card of mine and then have to try and remember that term. They're already going to be seeing the content on a social media platform, and then they're
yeah,
just literally going to click a link.
they're already at the front of a funnel
They're just
somewhere,
going
so
to
they can jump
click a
in.
link. They're not
Like,
going to type it in, yeah. And
yeah,
then, you
yeah,
know, I use Facebook advertising, YouTube ads alongside of the stuff. So that's how I'm positioning stuff in front of people. So they're
yeah.
just going to have to click some kind of a link. But
What I like
people
is,
stress over this stuff. There's no need to, you know. Go with the name,
yeah,
get it out there. You'll figure it out. You know, it's just people. I'm going to create a logo for 6 months. Well, that ain't really going to affect your sales. Do you know
yeah.
what I mean? Your skill set and your application of that skill set and your adjustments based off feedback. That's how you're going to grow.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I use as well hashtags quite a lot, because
Mm,
once I make it to become a global speaker, then people are going to be able to find so much of my content because I've been building up for a long time. And I've got so much
mm-hmm.
hashtags, and I don't like
Yeah.
anyone to have the full picture. So I'm the only person who knows the full picture. So I got all sorts of stuff that will come out in time, and people are going to see all
Mm-hmm.
sorts of things. But I'm a bit like a super-sized onion with like so many layers. You know what I mean? And as
I
people
wondered
get to
where that was going to go, Mike. I wonder where that was going to go. You bring
well,
people to tears. One of you five a day. I'm glad
but
you said layers.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But layers, there's so many different hidden layers and
Mm-hmm.
under layers and stuff that people are gonna just unravel for years once they do get to know me. Once I hit that,
Mm-hmm.
I'm close. I think I'm close to that the tipping point. Yeah,
Yeah, that's the number. The two things that people are required to create success in business and life is faith and bravery.
yeah.
You know, because you know you have to have faith in something. I'm not a religious person. Some people might be, but you have to have faith in something. You have to have faith
I
that you
have
know
faith in spiritualism in the universe.
in
I'm not religious. It's
something that
not,
you
but that
can, you
higher
know, have
power.
in your favor. Yeah,
Yeah,
you got to have faith in something bigger than yourself. Otherwise, what's the point? And then bravery, because there's never a time when life is smooth, right? You know what I mean? The money I make now, I'm extremely grateful for. Never thought I'd be in this position for sure. But that doesn't stop all the problems in the world. It doesn't stop your ambition. You know, when I first started, I'd be like, if I can get to 1,000 a month, that'd solve a lot of problems. Then 2, then 5, then 10, then 20. You know, you just keep on going. Your ambition moves. So the satisfaction comes from the way you live your life, and the growth and progression comes from you having the bravery to pursue things that may make you uncomfortable. You can't figure them all out yet, like investing in yourself, like reaching out to people. This is what makes the difference. The
yeah,
consistency when nobody's watching, when it requires bravery. And you could easily go off and fiddle with your logo for another 6 hours, or you could just have some difficult conversations and make some real progress. Or you could go and buy a course that you've been procrastinating on, but you know you kind of need. This is what really makes a difference in people's businesses and lives. And bravery, you have to have that in any walk of life to reach the top.
yeah. I find something I find challenging is I love helping people, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm a bit of a philanthropic entrepreneur. So I do a lot of good things for entrepreneurs and stuff, because I see that they can't afford it, and so I just do it anyway. Yeah,
You've got
and
to
so
be
that's
mindful of that. Yeah, you've got to be mindful. Someone told me some great advice once. He said, Richard, go where you wanted, not where you needed. And at first I thought that sounds pretty selfish. Like if someone needs me, isn't that a greater desire? And what you've got to do is you've got to look at the position somebody's in and the part they played in that position. So we've all had situations where temporarily we're on the back burner. I had to sell that health and fitness business. It took me a little while to get over that loss and get back on track. But it was only a really short time frame. The majority of life is how you react to it. So I wanted to get straight back up again, dust myself down and go forward. When you start coming across people who've been in a situation of difficulty for a number of, if it's anything like 6 months, 12 months, getting on for that, you have to then look at that person and the habits and their behavior. A lot of times people want to blame external circumstances. I'm just unlucky. It's because of this. It's because of that. And at the end of the day, you have to then start to look at the way they're making decisions, not that's coming to them. A lot of times people see opportunities as danger. They don't even take them. People will find a problem for every solution. So I'm all for someone who's having a temporarily bad situation. I've had deaths in my family. People have health issues, relationship problems. I'm more than happy to put a hand down and help somebody up. But they've got to reach back up with their hand. And I've got to see that person's willing to participate in their own recovery. What you don't want to do is give someone like an hour or 2 hour coaching call. They then go away and go, oh, I worked in my business today because I spoke to Richard or I spoke to Mike. And then they still move away from the difficult actions required. You've got to make sure that if you're giving someone some actions to take, they're going to take them. And there's no more time exchanged until that person's reached the next step. This is a big problem in network marketing, big problem. People try and massage the bellies of the team, rub their back, pat the belly, rub the back.
Yeah.
I'm like, listen, you're actually detrimental to their progress because they feel like they're working when they're not. They're just conversing. This person's been in this situation for 5 years. They're choosing to stay there with their bad habits. They need to take that responsibility and use the uncomfortable stuff that they're avoiding before they're even in a position to be helped, because they won't help themselves.
The ones I tend to help are the really good old school entrepreneurs who have got great ideas and great passion and energy and are working hard at it, but they just don't understand the modern world and the technology and digital and all that. And they don't understand, for example, that they need to invest in those things. So sometimes you've got to educate them by demonstrating to them how they work and changing their mindset. I like
It's a
dealing with those
mindset
sorts
issue
of
that,
people.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a tactical problem. That's a mindset problem. It's a problem of self-belief.
Well, it's
I don't
also
think this will work.
it's a lack of knowledge and education in that sector. So if you like, they're so used to doing things the old school way, they don't understand that the new school ways are better and more wide-reaching and efficient and all these sort of things. So I like working with those guys because they're really giving it their all, but they're not necessarily getting the results that they could be getting. So I like helping them in that area, really. So,
Sure.
and I'm a sucker for that. I'm a sucker for helping people in that area and helping them to grow their businesses massively, giving them loads of great information and advice, but not necessarily getting, paid for that. But I want to see them getting their business growth. And if you pick the right people, I believe it'll come back to me tenfold in the future anyway, but that's to be seen. But it does take up a lot of my time doing that, but I quite enjoy it as well. I quite like it.
If you enjoy it and it's not limiting your reach to the people that are wanting your help and are willing to pay for it and can get results, no harm in that whatsoever. The only thing I would say is just to judge your time investment off the results of your students. You'll know if you're putting time into the right people by when you revisit them in a month, 2 months, 6 months time and say, okay, so how much money are you making now? How much of the online digital stuff have you applied? Then you can see there's a period of growth where, at first I was the only one getting results with what I knew because I was the first student, if you like, of my own techniques, of my own systems. I was the one leading the way. And then all of a sudden you start teaching other people and you'll see some people get results and some people won't. I started to obsess over what the difference was between those two groups. Same knowledge, same information, same person, same systems. Why is it one group is getting the results and one group is not getting the results?
Mentality.
What it came down to their personality, their beliefs. There's so much information out there nowadays for any audience to educate themselves about online marketing. It isn't a lack of knowledge or understanding. It's a lack of will to pursue that knowledge. You know, I could go on YouTube right now and I could find an instructional for virtually any area of business, any area of life. You know, I was looking the other day, we're moving to a new home. I put on YouTube how to safely take down a brick wall. There's like 20 different videos pop up to give me an idea. So the knowledge is freely available out there up to a certain point when you want to specialize and get a coach. We just have to find the people, like you say, who are working hard and have got that flexibility of mindset to say, you know what, even though I can't see how this might potentially work for me, I'm willing to give it a go. I'm willing to apply something that people teach me. It's why I use funnels. I want someone to jump through a few hurdles. Yeah. Like I want someone to enter their email and watch a video. If someone comes back to me and says, oh, I couldn't stick the 30-minute video, I'm like, well, if you couldn't last 30 minutes with the exact help that you said you wanted and needed, there is zero point in me in putting any more time into that person, because it isn't a problem of tactical knowledge. It's a problem of their time allocation, their commitment, and their consistency. You've got to see something, a spark, haven't you, to know that you can pour something on it to kind of fuel that. So, students' results, they're my main, money in the bank for my personal business, and student results is how I sort of say, right, okay, am I successful in what I'm doing? How big has my business grown? But importantly, how is it working for the people that pay me money?
Yeah, definitely. That's some good information and some good advice in there. I'm fairly new to YouTube, so I'm still cracking that. I haven't actually done many of the how-to videos, which I may well do, but I've been more doing these sort of chats and that sort of thing. And I think with these sort of chats, there's not necessarily people so much looking for them. I think it's quite a new area of YouTube. There's not many of the how-to videos and all that. There's a lot of people who are educated over the last 10, 15, 20 years to, if they want to know how to do something, to type it into YouTube and they'll find a video, or to type it into Google and they'll find the video, or the text alternatives, So I think that's a challenge, is trying to tap into a market that, maybe isn't there at the moment, or is I think a lot of the people who do the same sort of videos that I'm doing are they're being searched for by them, by their name. Their personal brand is already high enough to get that audience, if you like,
It's the same way I have these videos for myself. I interview students. So once a week, I'll pick somebody that's getting really good results with what I'm doing, and then I'll interview them. And so I have an audience already. So it's great. These videos are really, really good. This content for actually helping people who are following you make a buying decision. Because a lot of it's down to, okay, well, will that person's program or will their help me? So obviously we only have one story each. I can talk about not having a father growing up, have a small business. There's going to be people listening and go, I can identify with that. But there'll be a whole bunch of people that will be like, I can't identify with that. So when you interview your students, people getting success, it's like I interviewed a gentleman called Tim last week. Tim's an Australian guy, just separated from his partner, moved to the other side of Australia. He's got his dog and his digital business. So any single guy or someone that's separated from a partner, they're going to relate more to Tim than me, who's been with the same lady since he was 16 years old. And it gives them a great insight to saying, okay, well, it isn't just working for Richard. It's working for people that it's not him, it's the system that he's teaching. So this is a great way of building up content like that for your audience. So as your audience grows, you can consistently say, hey, here's an interview I did with such and such. Maybe you'll relate to their story. Here's a student of mine that's getting great results. Maybe you'll relate to that person and can get some tips from them. So it's still really good content to have out there. Also, it's got crossover skills. Right now you're getting comfortable on the camera. You're getting used to interviewing people. You'll watch these back, see what went well, what didn't go well. So you start to master this craft. It's all value for you and for your audience.
Yeah, I do a lot of the how-to content and educational content on the podcast, but I haven't got into doing that on the YouTube because I'm producing such a large amount of content. Yeah, I find it easier and quicker to do audio only via my phone than I do to actually get on a Zoom, do the video, wait for the video to come out, upload it into YouTube. I mean, it's more, it's more time consuming. And at the moment, I'm in the quantity over quality phase. I'm in the just putting content out there so much to hit the tipping point.
Yeah, I like you know, you want a posting schedule, but what's really useful is to chunk your videos. So on a Monday is my filming day. I pre-scheduled up till October, actually, way back in May, with all the lockdowns. So I haven't filmed for a little while, but I usually do at least a month's worth of content on a Monday.
Yeah.
So on a first Monday of a month, I get myself smartened up. I've got all the titles of my videos. I've got all the basics I'm going to cover. And then just off the screen there's a whiteboard. I get my camera set up, fully charged, everything's ready to go. And then I'll just blast out, you know, a good 12 or 15 videos straight away. And
Yeah.
then I'll edit those videos and pre-schedule those videos to upload, you know, 2 or 3 times a week on my YouTube channel. I take the audio from that YouTube video and that becomes my podcast. So instead of saying, you know, after you've watched this video, you could say after you finish this training, unless it's something very visual you're showing. But
Yeah.
most of the time, it's just tactical information when we're coaches and consultants. So, you know, you can create a whole bunch of videos on one day. You can edit them the same day, just trim the beginning and end off. Don't worry if you make a couple of mistakes. Nobody's bothered. Just own the mistake.
Yeah.
You know, if I and R, I go, oh, if I can get my words out, we'll get there. You know, I just
Yeah,
own the mistake.
I don't bother by any mistakes or whatever. It's just get it out there,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, then you just need to trim the beginning and end, extract the audio. Now you have a video, you have a podcast. You could take snippets of that, use it on social media, put it in your Facebook group and point them back towards your blog. And what you've got now is you've got this one day of filming for the entire month, and the rest of the time you can focus on actually driving traffic to that, working on your funnels, working on your processes, you know, working on your business, not just in it.
Yeah. I have similar sort of routines to that, but with the podcast episodes, for example, I'll bang out like 5 or 8 in a row or whatever, because I spend a lot of time marketing them. Then, so I have the processes of, again, when I upload a video into YouTube, I have the process then of sharing that from the YouTube channel to all the different social medias and all of that. Yeah. So that takes time. But I also am a massive networker, so these chats that I do are also part of networkers. They're part of the follow-up process, if you like, of meeting people at networking events. I do a lot of online networking events, which is the front end of my funnel. So actually, I'm at the front end of my funnels in the real world, if you like, but it's online world now. But it's getting people into my world, and then it's putting them through the podcast, the Zoom, the YouTube, and then into the process. So I tend to use a combination of old school, new school, you know, real world and digital as well. So I'm a bit of a
whatever works. Yeah, whatever works for you. I have a weekly meeting in my company, and we look at the money we took, the money we spent, the profitability, student results, what went well, what didn't go well, how are we going to adjust and move for the future. So, you know, those are the key criteria. If I see the profitability is increasing and student results are going the same way, we look at how that happened. If I see profitability decrease for some point in time, in touch wood, we've had a good few years of record growth in a row. But if something, you know, happened there, I'd know about it within 1 week. Within 1 week, I'd look and I'd go, what happened there? And I can figure that out and I can cut that stuff out. So, you know, that's a great piece of advice for people. You know, a lot of times people just get their head down and they plow on with what they think will work. I did that for a long time. Well, I think this will be the best way. I think that will be the best way. Nobody cares what you and I think. It's what the marketplace thinks. Yeah. So in the end, I was like, well, what's actually working for me? What's actually generating the best leads? What's getting the most sales? I started tracking everything. Every social media platform had a link that I could track. Every resource, every time someone bought something, it's a trackable link. So now I can see where all the interest is coming from, where the sales are coming from. And I'm able now to say, well, you know what? I was spending a whole bunch of time on Instagram. Hardly any of my sales are coming from there. Why am I spending, say, an hour a day on Instagram when I'm over here? My YouTube channel is generating all these leads and all these sales. I could use that 1 hour and create an extra couple of videos a week. Yeah. Just like that, when you see the statistics, you're able to make an adjustment, same amount of time, but you can massively shorten that learning curve to getting from that, to getting to that tipping point, to getting to that success. So many wasted hours in the day for so many people at the moment. And, you know, the internet's making things so simple, but it's making them simple to overlook as well. They forget that there's a real business involved. Just because there's a internet connection doesn't change that.
No, definitely not. So fire away with some places how people can get in touch with you and connect with you and all of that. Obviously, you mentioned the YouTube channel. Are there other places where you like people to follow you?
Probably the easiest place is either through Facebook or LinkedIn. You know, if you type my name in next time you're on LinkedIn, or if you're online now, open up Facebook or LinkedIn, send me a connection or friend request. You know, I take an hour out of my day every day to connect with people personally. You know, despite assistants and all the other things that I've hired, you know, all the people I've involved, I still like to connect with an audience on a personal level. I only have a chance to do about an hour a day now, but I still like to do it. So if you send me a message and you ask me a question, I am going to respond. I think that's important to keep your feet on the ground and learn what people need and what they want. And I enjoy it. I enjoy having conversations with people too.
Yeah, you're in the same places as me at the moment, then, because I've been through all of them. I use all platforms as a digital marketing consultant, trainer, and service provider. And it's my job, I see it, as to know about everything. Like, you know what I mean? Because then I can offer the best advice on, you know, what's going to work for the different clients that I work with, etc. But you know, I tend to invest at the moment most of my time in LinkedIn because of the fact that if you get 10 likes or comments within the first hour, you can, you know, get your content to go viral. So it's the best for organic reach at the moment. So I do a lot on LinkedIn for that. Facebook, I never do much Facebook advertising or marketing and that, but I do a lot of Facebook pages and groups, you know, because I got a lot of Facebook
Groups are
friends.
good, yeah.
Yeah, so
Pages are a necessity for advertising. Pages you need because if you want to advertise, you're going to have a page. Groups are great right now. There's a lot of reach in groups. You know, LinkedIn is good for direct prospecting. You want to have a mixture. You know, I like to specialize in a couple of different areas and drive real expertise. I'm always happy to turn people away to other people. So I never wanted to be a generalist. I think specialists make the most money and can give, you know, the best advice. I remember one of my first marketing coaches, he said, Richard, imagine this. I'll show my age here. He said, imagine you're looking through the yellow pages, which I don't even know if we have anymore. Do we have yellow pages?
no,
But
no.
this is the old Google, right? We used to look through, need a plumber, you go P for plumber and you look through the yellow pages. He said, imagine you've just moved into your dream home. It's an old cottage and there's these big doors and the internal doors. Someone's glossed over them year after year. Now you want to strip back that paint back to the original wood. There's a skill set required to do that. It's called door dipping. If you get these specialists and they know how to mix the chemical the right strength, get it just right, and they can put the door in just the right amount of time, they won't damage the wood, they'll just take the paint off. He said, you see two adverts. One says, we give quotes and undertake all types of door dipping work. He says, the second one said, we specialize and only hand dip, you know, authentic antique doors from country cottages. Which one are you going to? I said, I'm going to the second one. He said, why? I said, because they're so specific that they understand the exact requirement that I have. And that was a big turning point for me in my business. You know, I started to say, you know what? You know, I'm specifically going to help people in a number of key areas. You know, if you want to semi or fully automate your business using digital marketing, that's what I'm going to do. You know, I'm not going to specialize in a whole bunch of other stuff because you can't, right? So I became an expert in saying, well, okay, here's how we can generate interest, convert it and scale it partially or fully automated using the internet. And business really took off from that point because I think people, when you give them specificity, they now understand, oh, I will come to you when, or I will come to you because. It gives them that okay, I need this person is, I need them for this, as opposed to, you know, if they're unsure, uncertainty breeds inactivity. So if you can be really crystal clear on your offering, really crystal clear on your audience and how you're going to help them go from where they are to where they want to be, you know, you'll find that business can go really crazy really quickly without the need. There's no need to rely on viralness of content. I've never had viral stuff in my content. No. My audience on YouTube, I think I have 5,000 subscribers, something like that. Yeah. But the thing that I know is that I make easy six figures purely from YouTube. And the reason for that is because my audience is an action-taking strong audience. Yeah. It's a whole different ballgame to have 100,000 subscribers of people watching you do crazy stuff, you know, with a bowling ball or washing your car, as it is to have, you know, 5,000 subscribers when it's just you and a whiteboard and you're teaching very specific techniques. So people often worry about the size of an audience. Just worry about the quality of the audience. You know, I don't care about popularity. No. I don't care about any of that stuff. I don't need approval or acceptance.
I don't. A little bit, because I'm in sales and marketing, and sometimes the numbers are good. But you know, ultimately, it's like when you go to a networking event, it can only be 5 people in the room. But if it's the right 5 people, then it's a worthwhile networking event.
Exactly.
So, and I do a lot of networking events. So to me, it's never about the number of people in the room. It's always about who's in the room. And, like I went to an online speed networking event. In fact, it's on tonight. It's every Thursday in America. And I met another, power networker, I call them, people who know a lot of people who can, join up the dots and match people together, etc.
Sure.
So, to me, I could go to 10 events and not meet one person like that. But you go to one event, you have 60 people there, but so you have the numbers as well. But you only need to meet one person sometimes, like, who's going to make a difference to your life, like, So
That's a
I'm a
big
little bit
advantage
different
you
in the
have
mindset as
over
well, though, because I've always wanted to be an MD since, about 11. And I always wanted to be MD of my own business as well. So I take an interest in every aspect of a business, if you like, because, to me, it's important to know about how every single bit works in a business, and also, I do understand the specialism thing as well, but, I have a mindset of being like Tesco's, for example. Tesco's isn't a butcher, a baker, and it's not an electric company. It's not it's everything. So that's just the way I think, is about just, just being everything for everyone, like, I mean, global domination and just.
Well, if we look at Amazon, probably the largest company in the world right now, or Walmart, they all started as specialists.
Yeah, they did start.
Amazon was selling books. That was the sole purpose of Amazon, was I'm going to sell books online.
Yeah, I know.
I'm going to get them there. And now it's still a specialist. Amazon specializes in the deepest product range and the quickest delivery. It's still a specialist. It doesn't, you don't worry about pricing so much. And same with Walmart. Walmart started, if you read the, the Walton story, it started in specifically, he would have a specific criteria. He had a plane. He got a plane. He used to fly around and look for specific criteria for specific locations. And then they would put specific products in there to bring. Their strategy was they would bring people in with ridiculously offers that they would maybe lose a bit of money on. So they're giving away tennis rackets this week, for example. They paid $5 a racket. They're going to sell them for $3. Everybody else is selling them for $50. So everybody's crowding Walmart. Now, while you're there, you're not just going to buy a tennis racket and turn around. Maybe 1 in 100 does. But everybody else says, well, while I'm here, I could do with a T-shirt, I could do with a pair of socks, I could do with milk, I could do with my shopping, and that's how they made their money. Now they don't need to do that because they've grown. But, specializing, it gives you a way in. If Amazon came along day one and tried to sell everything, you would have failed. So the best way to go is to specialize at the beginning, have an understanding of your marketplace for sure, but specialize at the beginning. And then as you grow, you're able to then take that to another level and expand. Like someone like, say, Gary Vaynerchuk. He started out, he took over his family's wine business. And the sole way that he built his business was doing Wine Library TV. He specialized in creating a weekly YouTube video on a new type of wine. Now, because he used that to grow that business to millions and millions, he then started to publish books on entrepreneurship about using content to be able to build a business. Then he became a best-selling author. So then he was able to open up his own consultancy. And now he consults with, a lot of large companies and company owners to help them with their social media profiles. But it came from that one specific Wine Library TV show that he did. Specialized, grew an audience that then gives you the pull to be able to water down your messaging and still compete. Because the problem we have nowadays is there's so many people, there's no new ideas left. There's so many people doing how-to videos on YouTube, podcasts, prospecting, consultancy, any business. There's so much competition. You need an edge. You need a specificity to be able to say, well, like the door dipping. Well, I'm going to come to that person because that person takes care of me and my needs better than everybody else. And then when you've built up that success and that growth and that foundation, you're free to try different avenues and different target markets. That's what I continue. It's just my opinion, but it's what I've seen continually work for myself and thousands of students that we've had now over the last 7 years. The ones that have struggled have been the ones that have really struggled with the confidence to kind of plant a flag and say, this is who I am, this is my business, this is my offer.
And this is my sector.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, good. Yeah, it's good. There's some good advice in there. So yes, you said you've done some speaking in the past. Have you on? Was that in network marketing or in some business events? What sort?
I did both. Yeah, I did a few events, only a small handful. I did some stuff in the UK at some specific company events, and then I was flown out to Florida. It was an event called the Top Earner Academy. I did that for 2 years. Um, I like I like my freedom. Do you know what I mean? I sat down and I was like, what is the number one way I want to build my business? And for me, it was online because I liked that freedom. I wanted to be able to spend time at home and still make as much money. So I enjoy speaking. I enjoy these interviews. I enjoy talking, as you can probably tell. So if someone invites me to do a speaking event, it's a really good event and I think I can offer value, I consider it. But I've never been somebody that's been focused on like doing the speaking rounds because I have a 9-year-old daughter. I have a wife. I love to travel. I love my life. So I don't really want to spend any times in hotels on the road, that type of thing,
Yeah.
unless it's in like school holidays. I scheduled those events when it was at school holidays, so my family came with me.
Yeah. So you get to enjoy I used to do that with some of my, when I used to be national sales director, I used to book some appointments on a Friday and then take the family with me and then stay off
Yeah,
in the Lake District or, somewhere,
you got to
somewhere where
practice what
we,
you preach. There's a lot
yeah,
of the people out there were trying to give in the early days. They were trying to give. I'm always open to advice, but I always consider the source.
yeah,
People offer opinions all the time these days. I'm like, okay, so what's happening in your business?
yeah,
I have people saying, oh, there's a 5-year plan. Speak at every event, take every this, do all the rest of it. And I was like, but you're 8 years into this 5-year plan and you're still living out of hotels. If you're not putting physical time in, your business stops. You have no infrastructure, you have no predictability in your lead flow or your conversions. This has been the same for 8 years. The business owns you, you don't own the business. So when these people were trying to give me advice, I was like, I wouldn't take advice from that person. The person I was always listening to was the person that had the lifestyle that I wanted. Okay, I see this person spending a ton of time with their family, they're traveling around the world, and I see them hitting ranks and awards on stage, so their business is thriving too. Let me reach out to that person because they definitely have what I want. So just be very mindful about, how many people you pay attention to and always consider the source. Does this person have the business and the lifestyle to get what you want? Loads of ways to make loads of money, but there's loads of people that have swapped a 9 to 5 for a 7 to 11, and it's not even something that they enjoy anymore, but they've got trapped in it and they're physically having to dial every 2 seconds, message every 2 minutes. It's just a shame to see people do that when there's so many systems and techniques that would allow them to not have to. Just remember, the way you typically build a business is what's going to be required by you or someone else to maintain it. Make sure the methods are what you enjoy.
yeah. Well, I would have thought so because I am interested in doing that sort of travel
Mm.
lifestyle, and I want to travel around the world and speak on stages, etc. But I'm quite happy as well to. I'm thinking about setting up my own event at some point and doing it virtually and digitally, and I would have
Excellent.
thought that would be a good space for you to go into, actually. Doing that speaking, but from home, but reaching out to lots of people, especially. There's a lot of people at the moment going through this process of going more online, digital, getting used to working from home and wanting to get that work-life balance, better, if you like, more balanced, if you like. Is
Yeah, I've
so,
considered it. I consider it a little bit. Being entrepreneurial minded and ambitious, you always have those thoughts, but I'm just fiercely mindful of my time, and business is fantastic. My business is growing at a record rate 4 years in a row now. I think we're 184% ahead of the actual profit from this time last year. And last year was, I think, 207% above the year before. So, I'm just fixed and focused on serving my audiences best, getting better at and mastering my craft.
yeah,
I like to, and I adhere to the advice that I give. I practice what I preach, which is you should find something to master. And if you like it and you're good at it and it's helping people, then be the best at it.
yeah,
If I ever decide to create a program or a course or something that helps people make money from home, for example, I'll only do that if I feel that my program will be number one. I
yeah,
know that in the network marketing space, my program is the best. I stand my program next to anybody's. I know that for a fact because I bought all them all as research
yeah,
and invested
yeah,
myself in everybody else's program. When I thought I can do better, that's when I jumped into the marketplace.
yeah,
So I just wouldn't want to dilute my focus and have my main focus, suffer. Maybe one day I'll do that as something, as a side project for something to be helpful to that audience of people. But again, only if I feel I can offer really true value.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think it sounds like you would be able to offer some really good value in an online global event in that
Yeah,
sector,
maybe
if you
guest
like,
speaker, something like that at first, Mike. You know what I mean? Someone's got a major event. I could do a little segment in there, share some knowledge. I think that's the way I see myself doing that right now, because I'm always happy to help other people. So I'll easily carve out some time out of my schedule if someone says, "Look, I'm doing an event. I'm reaching a lot of people, but we'd love to get your take on this area or ask you a couple of questions." I'd be happy to do that because it's helping as many people as possible. I think
Yeah,
that's probably the way that I would do that.
yeah, it sounds to me though, like Brian Tracy and Bob Proctor, both from that sort of network marketing background event for sales, but also Russell Brunson's doing really good
Yeah.
things as a speaker and of somebody who's offering a similar type solution to yourself, if you like, yeah. So I would say, because I'm big into the speakers that are big on the planet. They're all American. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's not
people
enough
say that. When I
Brits.
spoke at those a couple of events, they were like, "We really enjoyed having a different accent,"
Yeah,
and I'm really straightforward. There's no fluff with me. I'm like,
yeah,
this is the answer to my question. This is what I've seen work. This is a fact. There it is. Take it or leave it. And I think
yeah.
people kind of I don't kind of like weave in 25 different lead ups to the actual point. I'm like, oh, that's the question. This is the point. If I include something, it's helpful. But
Yeah.
maybe I wouldn't want to work myself into a position where people are like, "Oh, we want you to speak here, 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 here every single month." I'd always be very, very selective. I
I
love my
don't think
life.
you'd have to work yourself into that
I
position. I
love
don't
my
think
life.
Russell Brunson speaks that often, but when he does, he does big events and he
Sure.
smashes them, And I could see you as being a bit of a modern day cross between the old network marketing Bob Proctor's and Brian Tracy's, but also the modern day, Russell Brunson and the British version of that. I
Sure. Well, that's
myself,
a huge compliment. Thank you.
yeah, well, I myself, I'm angling to be the British version of a Grant Cardone, for example,
Sure. Sure. Yeah, I
Yeah.
get it. Yeah, I saw the
So,
shades. I got it.
yeah, so if you like, I identify with that because I know Grant
Yeah.
and Russell are doing a lot of stuff together at the moment,
Cool.
And I think,
Absolutely.
I personally think the Brits are underperforming on a global speaking stage.
Yeah.
So,
Definitely.
there's got to
We're
be
a
a
bit
few
more. We're
people
a
who
bit
step
more
up.
reserved, aren't we? We're a bit more
Yeah, I think that's the
reserved.
problem. I think that's the problem is the
Yeah.
British psyche and mentality. But actually, um, so for example, with sales, for example, like I've done solution sales, high-end IT technical solutions, whereas Grant Cardone did car sales. Now, I did 5 years of double glazing sales, so I understand that type of
Yeah.
sales and
Yeah.
that environment, etc. And
Yeah.
also Grant's selling in America, so it's very sort of gun ho and very sort of in your face and that. Whereas I can do that as well because of my double glazing
Yeah.
days, but I sort of had to
Sure.
polish myself and
Yeah. Just
become a
be
solution
yourself. Be
seller,
authentic.
IT, selling to corporates, had to
Yeah.
sort of
Sure.
pivot and change and adapt to the British
Yeah.
mentality.
And
Now there's a
people
lot
love
of British people.
authenticity. If you can
Yeah,
be yourself, people love authenticity. They can tell when it's an act or not. The majority of my business comes from America. I get a lot in the UK and
yeah,
Australia and most British speaking, English speaking countries now, but America is a huge audience. I think they're crying out for it too. I just saw the time. I'd hate to cut things short. I hate to
yes,
use the
two
word hate.
o'clock
I just
finish,
like to
isn't
cut it
it?
short. I have a Facebook Live in my private group that I'm on a promise for. So any sort of like final bits and pieces that audience would like, I'm happy to
See, this
share.
is two
But
o'clock. I'm happy for you just we'll just call it there.
cool.
We call it a day because I got a networking event I got to go to as well. I didn't realize the time
Sure.
myself. I knew this was just going to
Excellent.
be a good chat and just I could
Yeah,
tell that
excellent.
at the beginning. But yeah, maybe we'll have another chat again. But definitely look at that
Absolutely.
speaking idea because I think the Brits need it, and you got a good story to tell. So
Well,
yeah,
thank you, Mike. I appreciate the vote of confidence. I appreciate you having me on. I hope even if one person listening or watching gains something, I feel very good about that. And if anyone wants to reach out to me, LinkedIn, Facebook, just use my name. I'm not here to sell anything, so I'm happy to give advice if someone wants us to reach out.
brilliant. All right, thanks a lot for coming on the podcast, and have a great day.
You too, Mike. Thanks ever so much. I'll see you soon.
Cheers. Bye bye. Right, nothing else left for me to say other than have a great day. I know I will. And thanks very much for listening. Cheers. Bye bye.